Every time hunt players talk about balance, the same three weapons always come up. Most people think they're frustrating because they're simply overpowered. However, I don't think that's the real problem here. Because if it was only about damage, balancing them would be pretty easy, but it isn't. I think these weapons feel unfair because they remove something Hunt Showdown is built around: decision making. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Before I show you the first weapon, there's one thing you need to understand first, because without it, nothing else in this video will make sense. Hunt Showdown isn't a great shooter because of its sound design. It isn't a great shooter because of its atmosphere alone. Those things help, but they're not the reason why people keep coming back. The reason is much simpler. Hunt Showdown constantly asks you questions. Do I push? Do I rotate? Or do I wait? These decisions happen every single fight, and they're the reason why two players with the exact same loadout can have completely different results. The better player isn't always the one with better aim. It's usually a player who makes better decisions. And that's what makes Hunt Showdown so satisfying, because almost every death teaches you something. Maybe you pushed too early, maybe you made too much noise, or maybe you simply took the wrong risk. You can learn from that. And you can improve. Now here's the interesting part. Those three weapons I mentioned earlier don't remove your ability to aim. They remove your ability to make decisions. And that's a huge difference in a game like Hunt Showdown, because Hunt always gives you options. But those three weapons take these options away from you. And once your options disappear, your decisions disappear. And once your decisions disappear, a huge part of what makes Hunt Showdown satisfying leaves with it. So what kind of weapons are capable of doing that? Let's start with the first one. I know what some of you are thinking right now. The bow one-shots people. Sure, but honestly, I don't think that's why it's frustrating to play against. There are plenty of weapons that kill instantly. So let's forget the damage for a second. Instead, let's look at a situation every Hunt player knows. You're about to push a building, and you know someone is inside. And you know he is currently holding a fully drawn bow. Now ask yourself one question. What decision does the bow player actually have to make? The answer is almost none. He can hold the bow fully drawn for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or maybe a minute. Nothing really changes. Now look at the player outside. You know that if you peek, you're probably dead. So what are your options? Push or don't? That's it. The interaction is gone. The bow player isn't making decisions anymore. He's simply waiting for you to make the first one. And that's why I don't think that the bow's damage is the real problem here. The real problem is that the bow removes interaction. It asks almost nothing from the player holding it, while asking everything to the player who has to push. And that's exactly why this weapon feels so unfair to play against. But here's the interesting part. The bow isn't the only weapon that does this. There's another one. And I think it's an even bigger design problem. Let's forget about the damage for a second. Instead, let me ask you something. Why do throwing knives exist? Why do throwing axes exist? Or why would anyone bring a baseball bat? Every one of these tools I just listed has strengths and weaknesses. Now compare them to the spear. The spear kills AI very fast. It insta-kills hunters. And it throws further. And the best thing, it only takes 1 out of 8 slots. So let me ask you again. Why would you pick these alternatives if the spear exists? The spear doesn't just slowly outperform one item, it replaces several. And once one tool becomes the correct answer, the game stops asking interesting loadout questions. The decision has already been made for you. But there's one more weapon that removes something way more important than this. Normally, every melee weapon has the same problem. Are you willing to commit now? And then we have the Katana. Or to be more specific, the Martialist trait. I don't think that Martialist itself is the problem here. The problem is what it removes. Normally, the decision to commit to the swing happens during the fight. With Martialist, that decision happened way before the fight even started. You enter the ready stance, switch to your rifle, and now you're prepared for everything. The difficult part already happened. The bow removes interaction. The Katana removes commitment. So now that we looked at these three weapons, there are three completely different problems. Yet somehow, they all create the same feeling. So, what's the connection? Okay, but why is that actually a problem? Strong weapons aren't the problem here. Meaningful choices are. And the funny thing is, Crytek already believes that. Years ago, the large regen shot actually lasted way longer. Almost everybody bought 1 or 2 of them into the match. They just simply became the correct choice every time. So Crytek reduced their duration. Not because they were overpowered, but because they wanted the player to think about their loadouts more actively. Because once something always becomes the correct answer, it stops being a decision. So if Crytek already follows that philosophy, why shouldn't the same logic apply to these weapons too? So Let's talk about how I would actually solve it. Hunt Showdown already has the perfect system. Stamina. Imagine drawing a bow consumes stamina, and holding the bow fully charged also consumes stamina. Now, the bow player has to make a decision. Do I keep holding? Do I reposition? Or do I let go? The interaction comes back, and the fight is decided who had the better timing with a better decision. But there's another benefit. The crossbow finally has an identity again. It reloads slower and it takes up more inventory space. But once it's loaded, it's ready. Now both weapons have meaningful trade-offs, and that's actually the kind of decision making that Hunt Showdown is built around. Now let's get to the spear. Crytek already tried to nerf the spear by reducing its throwing range. However, it barely changed anything, because range was never the problem with the spear. The goal isn't to make the spear weaker, but to make other tools worth considering again. As you guys know, every throw already consumes stamina. The only problem is, you can still throw the throwing spear even if you have no stamina left. And that's the part that has to change. Because if you have no stamina left and you cannot throw it anymore, every throw now has a cost. Throwing knives become the #1 choice for consistency with damage trade-offs. Throwing axes become the middle ground, heavy alternative. And the spear becomes the most powerful option, but you cannot throw it that often. And now players stop asking what is the strongest tool and instead ask themselves which tool fits their playstyle the best. And that's exactly what Hunt Showdown always has been about. And now let's get to the Katana. The goal isn't to make Martialist weaker. The goal is to make commitment matter again. As example, entering the ready stance consumes stamina, which could mean if you're in the ready stance, it consumes stamina. And if your stamina reaches 0, the stance ends automatically. Now, the player has to make decisions again. Do I prepare early and risk running out of stamina? Or do I wait? Timing matters, commitment matters, and decision making matters. The Katana stays powerful, but now that power has to be earned. The strongest weapon in Hunt Showdown shouldn't be the ones that ask the least amount of questions to the player. They should be the ones with meaningful trade-offs. And if you disagree with my ideas or have better solutions, please let me know in the comments down below. I would genuinely love to hear them. And by the way, if you enjoy short high-density analysis like this one, focused on why good decisions make you way better in the game and where choosing the wrong one actually gets you killed faster, that's exactly what this channel does. Subscribing makes sense.